The arena stirred with an excitable lull as the Grand Master prepared his spells. Special magic that confined reality to a small bubble, preventing death, but giving the crowd and participants full strength within its borders. The magic aura swirled and swayed around the arena. Orbs of light and bursts of energy saturated the area in a kaleidoscope of colours. The crowd roars excitedly as two wizards, Master Claude and Master Armatis, enter the arena. Claude, relatively young for his level of skill, is a human, 35 years of age, but looks much older due to his robes and magic-induced beard, nervously enters the arena, his green robe scraping against the dirt floor. Amaris is a practiced and well-renowned elven master of magic. His resplendent blue robes glided with the trophies of countless victories. Trumpets sound and the battle begins in earnest. As is tradition, the newcomer starts. Claude prepares himself and casts his first ward, his hands moving in a pattern representing a shield. He casts his ward, and for a brief second, a dome of energy flows around him. Master Armatis' ears twitch in anticipation. He likewise casts his own ward, green in hue and substantially more powerful. The two stare each other down. The sound of a gong reverberates through the air, cutting the tension as Claude casts the first spell. "Incinerate!" he commands, swelling his hands to mimic the movements of a burning flame. A sphere of fire and flame appears in his palm. He focuses, his eyes steady and dead on his target as he readies the spell. His hands blur as the spell is cast. The ball of flame charges forward and, with surprising speed, blasts towards the elven mage. He braces himself, knowing full well just how powerful some human mages could be. He is no fool and concentrates on dissipating the energy of the blast as it hurtles towards him. He does not flinch as the ball of flame impacts his magical shield. His opponent is powerful indeed, despite his age and race, as the shield in front of him visibly warps and ripples to absorb the impact. Alas, no dice. The ward remains, and Master Armatis prepares his retaliation. The crowd gasps in awe as the fireball engulfs the shield, impacting it like a large cannonball before dissipating. The crowd applauses at the display, as the flames gently lick at the walls of the arena. Armatis readies himself and prepares his best weapon. His hands move in a blur of activity as he prepares a combination flame and lightning spell. His left hand forms the crest of a flame, his right hand the bolt of lightning. The energy of his magic swirls around the arena, the energy potential so potent that orbs of lightning and fire dart around him. The orbs spark against metal objects and scar the floor with heat. "God's fire!" he bellows, claps his hands and sends the combination towards Claude. The spell takes the form of a solid bolt of pure flame energy, burning white hot and glistening with electricity. Claude's ward barely holds together, the energy bubble rippling viciously from the impact and dispersing against the arena wall. Claude concentrates, forcing his ward to redirect the energy rather than absorb it. It works, and though he struggles, he manages to hold. The spell dissipates but leaves scars. The impact points to Claude's left and right, now showing the walls had partially melted. Claude readies himself, taking a deep breath. The crowd applauses and takes a moment to enjoy the display. No idiotic bloviating, no pompous talking, no arrogant displays, just a beautiful concert of magic between two masters of their craft. Claude readies a spell, a distraction and lightning spell. A devastating combination nobody expects. His left hand waves with a gentle flow like water in a river, while his right hand moves with the speed of lightning in jagged lines. Claw's left hand bursts forward, and a wall of water fuzzed towards the elven master, the tide of liquid impacting with the force of a flash flood. It is but simple water, so the deflection is meaningless. Claude concentrates, his water flood surrounding the ward seemingly harmlessly. The crowd lets out a chuckle at the display, seemingly confused as to the spell's reasoning. Master Armatis is cautious and does not fall for the provocation, maintaining his concentration. Caution is well rewarded, as the lightning spell Claude has suddenly unleashed. The bolt of electricity blasts forward, releasing a loud thunderclap through the arena and impacts the water flood. Master Armatis, though guarded, is caught in the provocation, and his ward dissipates. The blast of electricity is carried through the water and overwhelms the magic sphere. A massive blast of electricity, fully covering all sides, amplified by the water spell, and overwhelms him, causing the water ripple and fail. The ward failing makes the spell dissipate and explode, puddles of slightly electrified water splashing in every direction. Very good, Claude. Very good. I didn't actually see that one coming. You'll have to teach me that one, Armatis said, as he readied himself for his own attempt to disable Master Claude's ward. I learn for the best, after all. Your move, sir, he said with a polite bow, and returned to stance. The pair eyed each other for a moment. Armatis waved his hands, readying a spell Claude had never seen before, and steadied himself for the coming onslaught. Armatis' hands twisted and flowed like wind and water before the arena's temperature suddenly dipped below freezing. Armatis jumped from his stable spot and charged forward as a gigantic sword made of crystallized ice formed in his hands. With no effort, he leapt into the air and slammed the gigantic blade down onto his opponent. Claude was caught off guard by the sudden assault, and his ward failed. Both spells dissipated, with the ice blade shattering on impact and blasting the elf back to his spot. The crowd roared in excitement from the display, and a glorious applause echoed through the arena. The two wizards readied themselves, the limit of one ward spell per 5 turns still in effect. Claude held fast and steadied himself, knowing just how many tricks his ancient master could bring against him. Armatis now on high alert, as Claude's trick with the water made him think this youngblood was more than he seemed. Claude had his turn, and began to flail his hands wide and direct, his fingertips forming tight angles and chanting all the while. The magical energy swirled and swayed, blue, purple and red lights congealing into a golem of metal and rock armed with a large broadsword. Claude stayed still and stared his opponent down. Armatis, always willing for an even fight, chanted his own summoning spell, and a wooden and stone golem armed with a magic bow appeared. The two beasts took aim at each other. The crowd gasped in awe as the pair of master-crafted summons squared up. Claude's golem was the first to break, aiming his giant sword and charging like a knight on a horse at his target. Armatis' golem prepared to hop back to dodge the blade and loosed an arrow at it. The arrow hit its target and embedded itself in the metal golem's left arm, a magic curse causing it to freeze instantly, then blowing the arm clean off. The golem's sword disappeared along with its arm, but the charge continued in earnest. Armatis realized he made a mistake far too late as the 10-ton metal freight train charged at it. Armatis' golem was smashed into with more force than necessary, slammed into the wall with enough force to put it down before Claude's own golem, no longer able to move due to the damage, dissipated into the ether. The crowd stood and gave Claude's excellent tactics a round of applause, as did Master Armatis, who likewise couldn't help but clap at the display. I've seen those tactics before. Was that the nothing-to-lose thing you humans used against my ancestry? I see how it was so effective, he said. Yeah, and it worked then. Still works now, apparently. Kinda the reason we're here in the Golden Age, aren't we? Claude said with a knowing smirk. Oh, it's on now, Armatis replied with his own smirk. The crowd chuckled along with them as the two squared up, both of them still having more than enough mana to continue for hours to come. This time, however, Armatis' resolve failed him as a mass volley of fireballs, ice spikes and electrobolts, in a spell he had never seen before, failed him. The sheer volume of small spells and small projectiles pouring from Claw's hands was breaking his concentration and distracting him. Too many to count, too many to counter. His deflection magic was not keeping up. Claude maintained the relentless assault, until finally, Claude found his opening, and through the swarm a bolt of electricity struck the Elven Master in the arm. Armatis was hit with such force he disintegrated, and turned to a smouldering pile of ash on the floor. The crowd stood silent, Claude finally noticing his victory, before he changed and readied some healing and resurgence spells to bring his old master back in case the arena's magic failed. The silence remained, and the Grand Master reinforced his reality-bending spell with a cheeky wave just in case. Suddenly, a swirling vortex appeared. A dark mist of magical energy congealed itself around the pile of ash, and Master Armatis reappeared in the arena from it. Ow! That one hurt. Modern tactics, eh? Can't hit the enemy with a bolt action, so you hit him with a machine gun? You'll have to teach me that volley spell, he said, receiving a volley of laughter and applause from the crowd. I certainly will, if you teach me that ice blade spell. That was cool as hell. You okay? Claude asked. I'm quite alright, dear sir. Your turn, Armatis replied with a grin, as his eyes started to glow blue. Claude realized he had pissed him right off, as the magic from his opponent built up in the arena. The sound of swirling broken glass slicing through the air, as a spell of crystal and ice began to form. Claude swallowed nervously as he readied a deflection spell. A spell that did almost nothing. Armatis got his revenge for his previous loss, as he played with poor Claude by slinging 1 crystal shard, then 2, then 3, making them swirl around the mage for a minute. Once Armatis was satisfied he had sufficiently toyed with his prey, poor Claude was shredded by a swirling vortex of crystal and ice before being impelled into the arena wall by spikes. The crowd gasped in horror, then allowed a moment of revelry as they applauded the display. As Claude himself reappeared, he too couldn't help but clap in response at the immeasurable amount of control and concentration it took to pull a spell like that off. Keeping our old tricks in our back pocket, are we? Claude said with a grin. Oh, come on. You know some traditions never die, he replied. The pair shared a morbid grin with each other, as the crowd nervously chuckled at the dark joke. Claw's turn came again, once more summoning his signature metal golem, this time armed with a warhammer. Armatis wasted no time and readied one of his most potent ice blast spells. A combination of both concentration and his resolve, mixed of course with his surprisingly good mood, created one of the most potent ice spikes he had ever produced. The spell caught Claude completely off guard, as the spire of ice pierced straight through the golem's metal body and towards Claw's terrified face. In a panic before impact, he managed out one final spell before his head hits the arena wall. The spell successfully cast as a sort of Hail Mary attempt, and a strange ball of goop appeared on the arena floor shortly before Claw's body dissipated for resurrection. Armatis looked as the odd puddle of goop in front of him slowly congealed. Suddenly, as Claw began to remanifest, the puddle rapidly congealed into the form of a humanoid crocodile standing on his hind legs, wearing a purple shirt and baseball cap, armed with twin Glock 70 pistols with extended magazines, glued together by a reflex sight. "Surprise, motherfucker!" the croc yelled in an all-too-telling Bronx accent, before unleashing his 45 caliber payload gangster style at the shocked Master Wizard. Having no chance to retaliate or even prepare, Master Armatis was gunned down with a full volley of ammunition from twin Glocks with extended mags. Master Armatis lay dumbfounded and unable to process what the actual fuck just happened, as he dissipated. The crocodile taking a victory lap. "You in my hood now, bitch! That's my hood you in! Yeah, that's what you get! That's what you get! Tony?" Claude yelled above the creature's nose. Claude stood there, in shame, his head in his hands as Tony the Croco waddled over to him. Master Armatis reappeared from his pseudo-death and stood in the arena looking at the strange display wide-eyed and slack-jawed, still wondering what in the hell just happened. "Hey, boss. He was in the wrong hood, am I right?" Tony yelled with enthusiasm. "You did good, Tony. Thanks. Always count on you, can't I? You still up for the barbecue next weekend?" Claude asked. "You know it. Peace," Tony said, fist-bumping his friend before vanishing in a puff of smoke. Claude remained ashamed. The same man who once wore a full series of anime Catgirl merchandise to class, with no regrets, stood there in shame with his head in his hands. "What? What?" Armatis asked, half-heartedly. "I'm sorry, you can have that one. I forfeit that point to you. I'm sorry. I panicked. I saw the ice spire coming and I panicked. I'll give you that one. I'm sorry," Claude said, nervously shuffling. "Okay, calm. I'll forgive. If you tell me what the hell that spell even was," Armatis asked. Claude nervously shuffled in place for a bit. "Well, I was going through some personal issues a few months ago. I got distracted while practicing spellmaking and, started browsing YouTube memes. Then silliness happened. Before I knew it, I had an arsenal of meme spells. That one was from a Russian badger vid from back in the day. Tony the Croco with a Glocko. So, yeah. Master Armatis likewise held his head in his hands, sharing second-hand shame. Armatis released a big, silly sigh and waved his hand, summoning a small pseudo-goblin as a target. Okay, give us another one. I haven't seen meme magic before, so this will be enlightening. Go on, give it your best shot. Claude stood stunned for a bit, as his master walked to his side and waited. He shrugged and started a new spell. A bit of chanting and a nervous hiccup, Skibbity Toilet appeared among a swirl of energy for a split second, then charged forward with incredible speed, impacting the poor unfortunate goblin with such force, its legs and arms detached, comically hung in the air for a few seconds, then flopped onto the ground. Skibbity Toilet yeeted at MacFuck? Armatis asked. Yeah, Claude replied, as he hung his head in shame. Well, I'm half irritated and half impressed. You made memes into actual destructive spells that would be a humiliating loss for any wizard to face, if he never saw it coming. On the other hand, I'm very annoyed at the prospect that these spells even exist in the first place, Armatis said, giving poor Claude a side glance. I'm sorry. I was sad and depressed. It wasn't a good time. I should have been drinking instead of spell making. Armatis waved his hand and spawned yet another goblin. Okay, let's see what you got. We might be able to salvage this battle after all. At least we can get a chuckle out of it. Okay. Sorry. Stop apologizing and get on with it, Armatis replied. Let's see. Oh, I know one. Cheers for everyone! Claude's spell summoned an enormous house-sized wheel of cheese, hovering above the poor goblin's head. For a split second, the summoned creature realized what was about to happen, and everyone in the crowd could see for a split second the despair in its eyes, before it was squashed by an enormous weight of cheddar with a flat thud. Now, there was an enormous wheel of cheese in the arena that didn't go away. So, that one is Sheo's curse. Sheogorath, the Skyrim god of madness. Yeah, cheese for everyone. Yeah, Claude said, still nervously shuffling. The cheese wheel started levitating and made its way to the Grandmaster's viewing box. The Grandmaster took a knife and cut a chunk out of it, tasting it.
Well, that's really good cheddar! After classes this week, you will teach me this spell!
His voice bellowed through the arena. The crowd finally snapped, and a gale of hysterical laughter overcame everyone, as the Grandmaster started to use his own magics to cut up the cheese wheel and distribute it to the now jubilant patrons of the arena. It was indeed very good cheese. Armatis summoned one more goblin and waited for Claude to make his next move. Oh, I know. My favourite, Claude said. He used his magic to levitate the goblin and, at an angle, out of the arena, aimed a new spell at him. Fus Roda! The legendary meme shout from Skyrim blasted through the arena with a thunderous roar and threw the goblin into the air and out of the arena, splatting in the parking lot outside. Master Armatis stood stoic and calm for a moment. Okay, I admit, I want that one, he said with a chuckle, making Claude feel slightly less ashamed. How did you manage your shout? A combination of sonomancy and wind blast magic. Use the sound blast to augment the wind blast, creating a sonic pulse that blasts objects away. It's the same principle used in the electric water spout spell I used to disable your ward. Simple use of physics and thermodynamics, Claude replied in earnest. Well, if it's that simple, maybe I can... Master Armatis stayed quiet for a time and concentrated. He summoned a goblin as a target, then yelled, Curse of Stalinium! Before a small T-34 tank from the Second World War appeared and charged at the poor creature, squashing it and slamming into the wall. It was Claw's turn to be annoyed and disgusted as he gazed on his magic teacher of 15 years. Master Armatis shrugged. You're not the only one here with an array of silly spells. Before this, I never really got the chance to deploy them properly. Your strange way of combining magics makes it that much easier to cast them, he said, as he casually returned to his spot on the other side of the arena. Oh, thanks. I thought, in which case, 3, 1, 2, 4, I declare a meme war, Amartis bellowed, and cast a spell at Claude. Amartis summoned an enormous corgi doggo armed with a baseball bat, which charged at Charlie and yelled, "Back to horny jail!" before slamming the enormous bat onto Claude's head, splattering him into flat. Claude reappeared, to a gale of hysterical laughter from the crowd. Oh, so that's how it is, eh? Fine. Claude waved his hands, and a swirling vortex of dark energy, mixed with the menacing roar of chainsaw and demon voices, swelled in front of him. The ball of dark evil energy charged forward towards Master Amartis, and suddenly stopped just short. It dissipated, and produced a pixel art magic picture of Rick Astley. Never gonna let you down. Amartis had just been rickrolled. Magically. The crowd collapsed into the stands in a gale of hysterics. Even the Grandmaster couldn't help himself, and collapsed out of his seat from laughing too hard. The two continued to meme each other into oblivion for the next hour, before finally their mana reserves depleted. The two men just shook hands, then went to the tavern for drinks, along with the crowd.